Hello everyone, my name is Lurdsy. Apologies for the audio on this, I'm just using the mic on my camera. But I decided for my first video on my channel that I would talk about what kind of cosplay and things I've done before. And to show you guys that even though you're just starting out, you can start from anywhere with any skill level. Okay, so for my first video, I'm going to be talking about two things, so it's not too short. My first thing that I'm going to talk about is the very first cosplay I ever did, and I cosplayed Jalal from Fairy Tail. Now, at first I wasn't going to be actually a cosplayer, I just liked the idea of the props. But on my first trip ever to SAC Anime, I was walking around just exploring, looking at everybody's stalls, and I started seeing everybody else doing cosplay, and it really inspired me to do one myself. So on my way home, I stopped by Walmart and Joann's, picked up some fabric and material, and I made this mantle. And it's, Jalal's Wizard Guild from later on. And I didn't have anything else. I just had this and a bunch of my old clothes. I had a white shirt that I used. I had some black pants. I even had some belts and stuff that I strapped on. And the only thing that I made, or partially made, was this. This, I had cut out all of the fabric. I got all the gold trimming on it. I even cut out all the felt for his wizard patch. But because of how busy I was with school at the time, I had handed it off to my grandmother who helped me sewing, especially since I'm not that good at sewing right now. This camera doesn't really show the deep blue color that it actually is, but that's alright right now. I'm still fiddling around with the settings. But this was it. Just this little mantle on me, and the best thing about this was, even though that I put pretty little effort into making this because of how short of a time I had to work on it, because I went to SAC Anime, saw everybody else's things, went to Walmart and Joann's, bought the stuff, and then the next day at SAC Anime I was walking around with Jalal. So this is just a very cheap little mantle, just made to make myself look like Jalal. And the best thing about this was, while I was walking around, people were actually recognizing me as Jalal from Fairy Tail. I mean, of course I had the blue wig and the face paint on, which is kind of a tell for Jalal, but having this extra blue on me for his giant cloak, which I wasn't able to make, people still realized that I was Jalal. And that's probably one of the best things you could do when you're cosplaying, is not really one for one being that person, and more of trying to capture who that character is and make people recognize who you are as that character. Because if you don't catch people's eye, and if you're wanting to be a character, you want to show that you know who this character is and make it recognizable for other people, so then you get the recognition that you deserve for cosplaying that character. So this is the very first one that I did, and I'm going to move on to the very first prop that I did, even though I didn't use it at a con. So, after my first Jalal cosplay, I got really inspired to start actually going more into the costuming and cosplaying community. And I started watching videos and other things, and trying to figure out and learn as much as I could about making cosplay. And my first ever prop that wasn't clothes was a long sword from Monster Hunter. Now, it's hard to get everything on camera with this, but this is Oblivion from Monster Hunter 4, and I believe Cross as well, but at the time, this was years ago. Now, the blade and everything's all bent because I never had a proper place to store it, So you get everything's all curved up here at the front. But this entire thing was my very first prop. I think it's about maybe 6 feet in length, maybe 6.5, almost 7 feet long for a long sword. It's just a wooden rod that I bought from the hardware store. I wrapped it in leather, and then the rest of the stuff, like the blade, this is all spray foam that you would use for like insulation on windows or filling in gaps in the window. I had just laid an entire like piece of plastic out, and I sprayed the shape of the foam and then carved out all the details when it was dry. Then I spray painted it and got everything to scale. This was originally going to be for a Monster Hunter cosplay that I was going to do. Or I did, but this turned out to be too big for me to carry around, especially at a con. And it's even pretty heavy for this. Like the spray foam makes it lighter, so I can hold it and move it around, and I can use one hand for this, but just with one hand it's still pretty heavy. And with its size the way it is, I couldn't see myself walking around SAC Anime with this thing. Now, I haven't made any... Actually, no, I have. I've made another Monster Hunter Sword and Shield. That one's for my newest cosplay that I did. But I wanted to show you guys this because this is just... It's a very rough, you know, prop. Like, this is my very first prop I ever made out of any sort of material. It's the first thing I've made with wood and foam, not even EVA foam and foam mats, just spray foam and some wood, paint. And this is a very good thing that, you know, happened to me where I learned. I used this as a learning process. I sprayed it. The spray foam is really good for doing props like this. But of course, it's not the best material for stuff like this. It's weak and fragile, and if it's not stored properly, the blade will start to warp and bend. If I take the tip and I bend it super hard, I could snap this entire top of the sword off, which of course isn't good, but it makes it lightweight and, you know, easier to hold. So I hope just looking at some of my stuff in this video and in the videos to come will give you guys the inspiration to start, or if you already had started, a look at where other people have started. Because this sword is probably about 5 to 6 years old. And in that entire time, I have made at least something every year, if not every other month or so. I know for sure every year I've made something, and I want to go through and show everything that I've done so that you guys can either learn from what I've done or get some reassurance that there's other people who started out and their cosplays weren't that good but recognizable. So thank you guys for watching. If you want to subscribe so that you can see my future content where I talk about other things, like my very first Monster Hunter cosplay, full suit of armor, and my other Destiny cosplay, and then another Monster Hunter cosplay, as well as all the Destiny props that I've made. That would be very helpful. So once again, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more, and keep making things. See ya.